Topping the local news this Thursday night, a dramatic rescue at Eden Prairie after a giant earth mover rolls over a car. And a new survey in Minneapolis could derail efforts to build the super mall in Bloomington.
There are now 2 #1 draft choices signed and training with the Vikings in Mankato. And there's baseball at the Metrodome tonight. The mini strike, a mere blink in the eye of history.
Hi, Bob Bruce, live at the Metrodome. I'll lead off our team coverage of the Twins game tonight.
I'm Cindy Brocado along with Stan Turner. We'll have those stories and more next on the Eyewitness News Update.
Now, from Minnesota's leading news station, Cindy Brocado, Stan Turner, Dennis Belkin, and Bob Bruce. This is the Eyewitness News Update.
Good evening, everyone. They are indeed playing baseball at the Metrodome tonight, and Tony Oliva, the killer Killebrew, and Rod Carew were all there to take part.
That's because it's the Twins versus the Angels on the first day after the mini strike, and sportscaster Bob Bruce leads our team coverage at the Dome tonight. Good evening,
Hello,
Bob.
Well, I'll tell you, apparently the 2-day strike didn't sour the Twins fans on the national pastime. Over 31,000 here at the Metrodome tonight, and what a great way to restart the season. Tremendous game. You know, for the Twins against the Angels lead the division. Every game is absolutely crucial, and they win it tonight by a score of 4-2. A big win for the Twins. Before tonight's game, though, a special ceremony honoring the newest member of the 3,000 hit club, Rod Carew. Of course, he had many of those base hits right here in Minnesota. And earlier tonight, he stood alongside 2 other legendary Twins, Tony Oliva and Hall of Famer Harmon Killebrew. Boy, I'll tell you, for the good old days. But once the game got started, Rodney went to work against the Twins. He doubled in the first inning for a base hit number 3001, and later he scored the first run of the game. Again, though, the Twins are victorious tonight. They win it 4-2. Now, for the Twins fans' view of what went on tonight, let's go to reporter Frank Mann.
Bob, they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. If that's true, that explains why so many Twins fans showed up here tonight. They estimate that 31,000 fans bought tickets for the Twins' first post-strike home game. Not bad for a team in 6th place.
There's your strike guy, 50-cent strike guy.
What do you think about the strike being over?
I'm glad it's over.
Good to be back at work?
Sure. Very bad. Very sure. You bet.
Any hard feelings?
No. 50 cents.
It wasn't a matter of who won or lost. It's that they played the game. By moving quickly and reaching a settlement, the owners made up with the players, and the players, with the help of some lemonade, made up with the fans.
I'm surprised that it was over as quick as it was. I thought it would last the rest of the season.
I'm just glad we're playing baseball again.
You think the strike has made any difference?
Yeah, it kind of took all our enthusiasm out of maybe that one day, but otherwise I think coming back, I think maybe we can give it our all.
Lots of issues were raised during the strike, issues that left many of the fans wondering if the players cared more for themselves than for the game.
I think it's a little out of the ordinary when they average about $300,000 and still want more for the pensions.
I was on the owner's side. I thought the players are making a lot of money. For me, it's hard to understand how people making that much money cannot play.
And what was the strike all about anyway? Experts say
players wanted more money, and then owners wanted to cut down things on them.
And who was right?
I think the players were.
So remember, you heard that brilliant analysis live first on Channel 5. Incidentally, this is the biggest crowd ever for a game shown on local television. And to get an idea why so many fans showed up, let's talk to some. Sir, what brought you out here? Was it the free ticket, the strike, or are you just a loyal fan?
Well, I'm both a loyal fan, and I think we came down here just to get the free ticket, too.
Where are you from?
Mankato, Minnesota.
How about you, sir?
Mankato, too. I'm just glad it's over now. Glad it was as short as it was.
Very good. Thanks very much. Again, 31,000 here tonight, the 5th largest walk-up sale of the year, bringing the attendance to well over 1 million, 1.2 million to be a little more exact. Stan and Cindy?
Thank you,
Thanks a lot,
Frank. I think that little guy will be the next Twins player rep, don't you? Huh?
Either player, rep, or color, play-by-play.
It's pretty articulate. Well, one of the more amazing stories that we've had in many, many a day here. Cuts, bruises, and a broken arm. That is all a man suffered after being trapped for nearly 3 hours by 50 tons of heavy metal today.
Those 50 tons provided by an earth mover that backed over his car. Gary Erickson is an engineer. He was inspecting a construction site in Eden Prairie today. Well, that giant earth mover backed over his car, which was on the site. The operator of the earth mover apparently didn't see Erickson's car until it was too late. Then began 3 hours of hell for Erickson. He survived even though his car was crushed, but he was trapped under the huge bulk, and Eden Prairie police and firefighters had to work very slowly and very carefully to remove him. They used blocks of wood and bags full of compressed air to raise the earth mover, a painstaking process, 1/2 inch at a time. Their patience paid off, though. Erickson was pulled to safety. He suffered some cuts and bruises in addition to his broken arm, but tonight he is listed in fair condition at Fairview Southdale Hospital. Stan?
Cindy, Brooklyn park detectives are questioning 2 men tonight in connection with an overnight murder in that city. Kevin Berger now joins us live with the details. Kevin?
Stan, the 2 suspects are here at the Brooklyn Park Police Department at this hour. The pair was picked up by Brooklyn Park officers earlier tonight. The 2 men reportedly are roommates living in a South Minneapolis apartment building. Police had staked out the building before they were apprehended. Now, details are still very sketchy, but police say the 2 men are definitely suspects in Brooklyn Park's first homicide since 1977. They're being questioned in connection with the stabbing death of 23-year-old Robert Clark. Clark's body was found in Iris Park in Brooklyn Park around 6 this morning. Police say it's not yet clear what the relationship between the 3 men may have been. And police have still not recovered a weapon in connection with that death. And they say they're still uncertain about what a motive may be. So they still have many questions, but they do have 2 suspects in custody tonight. Charges may be filed, they say, tomorrow. Stan?
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Hennepin County medical examiners have been able to link a bed of human bones to a specific missing person in what's been called a breakthrough of sophisticated pathology. Minneapolis coroners and Anoka County sheriffs have identified bones found lying in an Oak Grove creek bed 3 months ago. Generally, after a body is decomposed, only dental records can identify it. Well, this new ID process took 3 months, but now they are sure the remains belong to Thomas Andrew Johnson of Cottage Grove. Sex, age, height, and unique characteristics all were narrowed down through the shapes and sizes of the bones. Anoka County authorities are now checking into the cause of that man's death. An Air Force jet crashed into a home in Oklahoma today. That leads our national and world news tonight, Cindy.
The jet pilot ejected safely from his craft when it developed problems on final approach to Tinker Air Force Base near Oklahoma City. However, then the jet crashed into a home and burst into flames. 1 person was found dead in the ruins after firefighters doused the flames. 1 other person is reported missing tonight. And 2 deaths at another U.S. Air Force base today. A terrorist bomb blew up at the Rhine-Main installation near Frankfurt, West Germany, killing a U.S. airman and an American woman. 20 other people were injured. The explosives were planted in a car that exploded about 7 this morning, West German time. German police are searching for members of the leftist Red Army terrorist group in connection with the bombing. Stan?
The catastrophe grows in South Africa tonight. Rioters and police battled again in black townships around Johannesburg, and observers call it the bloodiest fighting in 5 months. Hospital officials say at least 16 blacks were killed, 150 others injured in the past 24 hours. There is still a state of emergency in many cities, but most of today's rioting broke out in cities not covered by the emergency. And we have this update on a story we told you about last night. Those Americans reported kidnapped in Nicaragua. They are now reported to be free. 29 peace activists and 18 journalists were said to have been kidnapped by anti-Sandinista guerrillas, a statement the guerrillas denied. Now, there are reports that the group is on boats heading down a Nicaraguan river toward safety at San Carlos. That's a town on Lake Nicaragua. Cindy.
More damaging testimony today as the hearings continue into the conduct of Scott County Attorney Kathleen Morris.
And new figures released today that seem to support construction of a new convention center in Minneapolis, not Bloomington. Those stories and more in a moment.
Another element has been added to that hot debate over the proposed supermall in Bloomington. The Greater Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce today released the results of a survey of convention organizers around the country, and that survey shows that they would overwhelmingly prefer to hold their conventions in downtown Minneapolis rather than the supermall. Here's Dave Andrews with more.
As a decision
The word today from the president of the Greater Minneapolis Chamber was, if you want to generate a bigger convention industry in the Twin Cities, build your new big convention center in downtown Minneapolis. An independent national survey of 201 trade show and convention organizers showed an expanded convention center downtown would be preferred to the Germazian Brothers' proposed supermall by an 84 to 8% margin.
It's the view of the Greater Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce that if we want to expand our economy by bringing more conventions and trade shows to the Twin Cities, we should do two things. One, build the facilities that convention holding groups require so as to be competitive with other cities. And two, provide those facilities where the customers, and in our view that's the trade show and convention holding groups, want to use them. And according to this recent study, such facilities should be available in downtown Minneapolis.
But Upton said today the Chamber is not going to lobby against the Germazian proposal. He said more study is needed to see if, in fact, the two convention centers might be able to operate compatibly, drawing from different conventioneer markets. Upton today called for cooperation between supporters of the two proposals. But some view the convention center battle as an either-or proposition, either located in Bloomington or Minneapolis. And now many supporters of the Minneapolis site will likely use the survey results as ammunition in their fight to get legislative support for their cause. In Minneapolis, I'm Dave Andrews for the Eyewitness News Update.
The St. Paul Coalition for the Homeless is bracing for a fight to get an initiative on the November ballot. That initiative guarantees shelter. It guarantees it to any homeless person in St. Paul. Well, today, coalition members turned over signatures of some 10,000 people who want the issue on the ballot. But city attorneys see some problems with it. They say taxpayers would end up footing the bill to provide beds for those who could not find shelter in existing facilities in the city of St. Paul.
It is not lawful to commit to delegate to a ballot question the budgetary decisions that the city council and the mayor are elected to make.
Some critics say that such a law would attract homeless people from other cities. Still others say any city help should address the emotional and human needs of the homeless, not just shelter alone. Cindy?
As the issue of how much to do for the homeless becomes more and more urgent, we'd like your opinion on it. Tonight on our Minnesota Feedback segment, we'd like you to tell us whether you think city government should provide shelter for those who need it but can't afford it. If you answer yes, call 1-900-210-5111. 1-900-210-5111. If your answer is no, call 1-900-210-5115. And remember, each call costs 50 cents. We'll have the results for you at the end of this newscast. Stan?
Very good, Cindy. On this, the sixth day of the hearings into the conduct of Scott County Attorney Kathleen Morris, the focus was on the alleged child murders. As Carolyn Bruchter reports, while some investigators thought parts of the stories to be bizarre, they also believed there was some truth to them.
Scott County Deputy Sheriff Norman Pitt told the commission that there were some common threads in each child's story of murder that he believed warranted investigating. And he said the children's fear was obvious.
The kids generally seem to be terrified of this incident. You could just see the fear or the distress in their face when they talked about it.
Under questioning from Commission Counsel Bailey Blethen, Pitt admitted that the allegations led nowhere.
You're not telling this panel that you were convinced that even one person got murdered, are you?
With any certainty, no.
Pitt praised Morris for being a good and aggressive prosecutor, but was forced to also admit that she could become violent.
Is she known to strike out physically during these fits of anger?
Yes.
Morris is also accused of being physically and verbally abusive to county employees. Another Scott County deputy sheriff, several guardians, and 2 BCA agents are scheduled to testify before the commission tomorrow. For the Eyewitness News Update, I'm Carolyn Bruchter, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
The weather was barely bearable today. Dennis Felkin will tell us about tomorrow in just a moment.
And just a bit later here, a Duluth taxi tonight bearing the brunt of an unfortunate collision yesterday. We'll have the details next on the Eyewitness News Update. I'm still marveling over the fact it was almost 90 degrees at 6 o'clock at dinner time today.
Yeah.
Something's got to give, huh?
Something's got to give, and it probably will. You know, one thing you associate with summertime is thunderstorms.
Don't you, though?
Yeah, that's the thing, don't you, though? There's sort of been a little lack of those things.
Really?
Take a look at this graph. Normally, during the summer months of June, July, and August, we can expect 22, count them, 22 days with the crack of thunder and the flash of lightning. That's normal. This has not been a normal summer, has it? The actual number has been 10, which kind of ties in with the fact that we need about 7 inches of rain just to get our normal summer rainfall. Now, we have a chance of chipping away at that if you want to believe the computers. The computers in Washington do a complete mathematical run of the atmosphere twice a day, and here is tomorrow's weather right into Saturday. You know, there's something kind of cold and hard about those numbers. I prefer my weather with blue sky and a gentle breeze and maybe a little bit of rain. And the computers in those last column here say if you add those up, 3/4 of an inch of rain by Saturday morning. Well, we could get part of that, all of that, or none of that. That's the trick to forecasting. And forecasting today was a little bit tricky because we had a problem with some couple of thunderstorms that came across the South Dakota border about midnight last night. This is a real close-up look at the state of Minnesota. Here's the northern part of the state, and the Twin Cities is about there. At 11 o'clock this morning, some leftover thunderstorms. They were supposed to be there in the morning, but they took to all afternoon just to jump the river into western Wisconsin, and it turned out to be one terrific evening. But the same process is beginning to happen again. Look at the satellite pictures for tonight, and I want to draw your attention way out to the west and to the northwest. Yep, there they are. More thunderstorms popping up in northwestern Minnesota, eastern North Dakota, and even out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And some of those are becoming severe. In fact, the radar, National Weather Service radar out of Fargo, North Dakota, has an intense thunderstorm to the northeast of Devil's Lake, and some of them drifting on up north of the Canadian border. Those have had some golf ball size hail in it, and those will be rumbling through the skies during the next couple of hours. And the Severe Storms Forecast Center says that any of those thunderstorms could be severe through the night. There's a slight risk of severe weather, a 1 in 10 chance throughout the remainder of the nighttime and into the early morning hours, and it's not impossible we could see a thunderstorm here in the Twin Cities come tomorrow morning. Hopefully it'll get out of here by tomorrow afternoon. The weather map right now shows us in a warm and sticky pocket of air across much of Minnesota and extending down to the south with a cool front, a sharp cool front cutting into all of that. And when I say heat, I'm not kidding around. High temperatures today across the country show 90s all the way up into Canada, including a record 102 in Rapid City, South Dakota. No record here in the Twin Cities, but it was warm. The high was 90, the low was 70, makes the day 8 degrees above normal. Right now in the Twin Cities, it's 79 degrees. The dew point's climbing at 56, humidity 45%. The winds, well, they've been out there. They're south of 10 with a gust to 26. Pressure's rising. Right now it's clear. Now the weather map for tomorrow hopes that the thunderstorms will be moving on to the east. We'll be in the warm pocket of air for much of the day with temperatures near 90. And then the cold front's going to start cutting into all of that. So more showers and thunderstorms are expected to develop here in the Twin Cities by tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Some of those could be on the heavy side. We'll see if the computer's right. KSTP forecast for tonight calls for windy, warm, and humid weather with a chance of thunderstorms late tonight, lows of 68 to 73. For tomorrow, maybe a morning thunderstorm, otherwise windy, hot, humid, with another round of thunderstorms possible by late afternoon, highs of 88 to 93. Tomorrow night, chance of thunderstorms continues with lows of 60 to 65, and Saturday we're hoping for cooler and less humid weather with highs of 77 to 81. And when we get through all of that, next round of rain comes in on Monday.
Oh, yeah. Your computer printout looks like my grocery bill. How do you read that thing? I don't get it. All right. Still ahead here. We're going back. We shall return to Bob Bruce for a report on the Twins. There's Bob, Smile Bob, and the Vikings signing other #1 draft choice. Those stories and more next.
Bob Bruce has good reason to smile tonight, and so do Twins fans. Bob?
Well, a great way to get the season off and running again. And, you know, for the Twins, whenever they play the California Angels, if they're to have any chance of getting back into it, they've got to beat them each and every time. And that's what happened tonight. They played the division-leading Angels, and they beat them by a score of 4-2. Now, let's pick up the highlights. They were trailing 1-0 in the second. Tim Tuffle right smack dab up the middle. Mike Stenhouse comes around the score, and it's 1-1. But the great play of the game, I thought, tonight was in the third inning. Watch this play. Stenhouse hits it out to right field, and Reggie Jackson misplays the ball. Not only that, Puckett comes around to score, and he was so casual about the throw-in that Roy Smalley scored with a tremendous slide. Randy Bush, next batter up, he hits it way out into right field, right out to the shower curtain. It comes off of that. Mike Stenhouse comes home to score, and Minnesota had a 4-1 lead, and that was all they would need. They went on to win it by a score of 4-2. Bert Blyleven first win back with the Twins tonight, and Ron Davis picked up the save, and boy, has RD been doing the job since Ray Miller came on with the Twins. Now, because of this strike, this will be a longer than expected homestand for the Twins. Those 2 games that they didn't play in Oakland, well, they're going to be made up next week right here at the Dome. The Twins and the A's will play a twilight doubleheader beginning at 4:35 on Monday. Then after a single game on Tuesday, they'll come back and play 2 more on Wednesday afternoon. By that time, left-handed pitcher Steve Howe will probably be a member of the Minnesota Twins. Howe will work out here tomorrow, and if the Twins like what they see in that second look, and Howe, of course, is satisfied with the Twins' contract offer, well, the one-time Rookie of the Year in the National League will probably be a Minnesota Twin by sometime early next week. Let's go to scores now. A lot of doubleheaders tonight because of the strike. Of course, the Twins beat California, and then Boston and Chicago, they're working on a split right now. Boston lost the first game 7-6. Another doubleheader, Detroit and Kansas City. Kansas City won the first game, and they're all tied up in the second. A sweep of a doubleheader, Toronto over the Orioles tonight, 7-2, 7-4. Working sweep of a doubleheader, the New York Yankees, they won the first game over Cleveland. In the third, no score in the second game between Milwaukee and Texas. The Brewers won the first one, and that one in Oakland, Seattle, no score early. National League, Pittsburgh over Philadelphia, 7-3. Braves beat the Giants. New York, all over Montreal tonight. St. Louis beat Chicago 8-0. In the fourth, Houston leads San Diego, and in the second, Cincinnati leads the Dodgers by a score of 2-1. Well, another day, another signing by the Minnesota Vikings. On Tuesday, it was Keith Millard. This time around, it was this year's top draft choice, Chris Dolman. Channel 5's Larry Burnett reports from Mankato.
His first Vikings practice was pretty ordinary, a lot of standing around and watching. But for Chris Dolman, the Vikes' #1 draft pick, Thursday, August 8th was anything but ordinary. It started peacefully enough this morning in Pittsburgh, PA. But after a phone call, a plane ride, and a signature, Dolman was signed, sealed, and in a Viking uniform.
It's a big relief. I know where I'll be. I can come in, get settled in, and really put down some roots. But I'm going to be here for some time and concentrate on football.
Dolman knows he's got some catching up to do in training camp. Besides being late, he is making the switch from University of Pittsburgh defensive end to Minnesota Viking linebacker. And he knows the expectations will be high for the team's #1 draft pick.
If you draft someone you expect them to come in and contribute somewhere down the line. I just hope that I can do that and give it my best shot.
So in a span of less than 8 hours today, Chris Dolman went from being an unemployed former Pitt football star to being a highly paid member of the Minnesota Vikings here in Mankato. He doesn't expect to play against Miami in Saturday night's preseason game, but he'd love to be in the lineup 1 week from Saturday night when the Vikings host the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Dome. At the Vikings training camp in Mankato, I'm Larry Burnett, Channel 5 Eyewitness Sports.
A couple other notes for you. There were six pick winners today. They each took home $12,000. And Doug Toole is the leader after one round of the PGA Golf Championship in Denver. That's it from the Dome again. Tonight's final, the Twins over the Angels 4-2. 6 picks, 6 winners. Great night for the Twins and great night for those 6 people.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Now it's time to bring you the results of our Minnesota feedback question. We asked you, do you believe that city government should provide shelter for those who need it but can't afford it? Well, your response is 57% of you said yes, the city should provide shelter. 43% of you said no. And that's Minnesota feedback for tonight. Stan?
All right, Cindy, here comes my tongue twister for the night. A big black bear turned a taxi cab ride into a real frightening trip for the driver and 3 passengers up in Duluth. Yesterday afternoon, the bear ran full speed into the back door of this cab near the Miller Hill Mall.
The next thing I know is he slammed on the brakes, and I looked, and there's this bear's head looking at me through the window, and I says, it's a bear, you guys, and it hit hard, and it shook the whole back end of the car.
No one was hurt except the bear, who ran off into a nearby wooded neighborhood. As of tonight, folks, the animal still on the loose. If you're a taxi driver, look out, huh? All right.
And here's the bear facts on tomorrow's weather. A hot, sticky day, maybe a morning thunderstorm, but I think a better chance redeveloping in the afternoon. Highs of 88 to 93. Bring the sunglasses, bring the umbrella.
The heat is still on.
Yes.
Right-o.
As we said, maybe unbearable.
I think so, right.
Good night.
That's right. Good night.